Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's 11th of October 2022. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So first off today, we have a slide here that was part of a presentation that Tim Taiko gave at DevCon. So Proto Lambda shared this little slide, and it's basically got a slide of what the post-merge buckets looks like. Now, we're all used to these terms, the Surge, the Verge, the Purge, the Splurge, right? We've all heard about those before. We've seen Vitalik's roadmap, but basically Tim's put these things into buckets here, and as you guys know, these things are happening in parallel, not necessarily sequentially, but the Surge is probably going to be the next thing that happens on the network, and that includes EIP 4844 or proto-dank sharding, data availability sampling, and a bunch of other things like that. And you can see that it's subtitled sharding and scalability. And then after that, I mean, the thing is, it could be any of these, right? It could be the Verge, the Purge, or the Splurge. It just depends what's ready. In the Verge is that basically the main thing in the Verge is vertical trees and and PBS as well. The Purge is all got to do with removing network debt. So this is more, I guess, technical than the others. And this is probably stuff that definitely, I don't know if this is going to be something that users would necessarily feel a difference. It's more structured towards developers and just, I guess, general protocol devs as well, and general protocol stuff. But it could also include state expiry, which, as Tim notes here, is very complicated, and we're not even sure if it's necessary yet. So that's still an open research problem. And the Splurge is everything else. So PBS itself, single secret leader election, which I've talked about before, SSLE, single slot finality. I've also talked about that before. It's a pretty big bucket, which they're still adding to. I have a feeling that this Splurge bucket will probably get divided up into various sub-buckets, or at least probably we're going to start calling them something else, because like, you have to think about the scope of each of these buckets. Like, look at the Surge. There is basically EIP 4844, data availability sampling and dank sharding. That in itself is very big, but it's quite focused. It's quite focused on one thing in particular. Whereas if you go to the Splurge, I mean, you have different things here. Obviously, PBS has got to do with MEV. SSLE has got to do with validator privacy. Single slot finality is got to do with the economics of the chain and the security of the chain, and Tim says it's a pretty big bucket, and there's always more stuff added there. So I do suspect that this will be kind of divvied up into sub buckets, or maybe just its own categories eventually, which is fine. I think that's actually the better approach, because if you become inundated with all these different things as part of one bucket, and then people look at that and they expect these things to all come as part of that one bucket, when in reality that's not the way it's going to be. Even some of these things, like even these other ones like the Verge and the Purge, it's not like we're going to have both vertical trees and the other kind of like things coming with the Verge all at once, right? We may have them as separate upgrades, just like, I mean, with the merge, like, the funny thing about the merge is the merge itself was one upgrade, so to speak, but to get to the point where the merge could actually happen was many, many upgrades, right? Like, I mean, we launched an entirely new chain in 2020, the Beacon chain, right? So you can create a bucket where it seems like it's just one thing, but really it's the overall thing. It's not actually the details of that thing, and those things can be deployed at different times, right? So still a really cool slide here. I've started saying the Surge is coming, and I think the emoji that it seems that we're going to go with for the Surge is that wave emoji. I'm sure some of you saw that on Twitter today. And there's also the KZG ceremony coming up that I've spoken about, which has got to do with EIP 4844 and proto-dank sharding, and that's the candle. So right now in my Twitter name, I actually have the candle and the wave. So the candle will probably go away once we do the ceremony, but the wave will be there until the Surge gets delivered. Gotta keep the excitement going, keep the momentum going. As I said, like, I think Ethereum core development is in its best place ever right now, and we want it to remain that way. That's for sure. All right, so L2Beat is out today with their L2Beat Bridges website. So I've spoken about this on the refuel before, but basically they released the l2beat.com/bridges section. You can go here and check it out for yourself. This is, as I just said, just released, so it's still early stages here. But you can see all the bridges here and all the TVL that is on Ethereum Layer 1 from what I can see. So the total value locked in bridges going from Ethereum Layer 1 to other chains is $8.44 billion. Now, this does not include layer 2s by default. You can, it does not include the canonical bridges to the layer 2s by default. You can select this little a thing here. You can click it and go include canonical bridges to L2s, and you automatically get another $4.2 billion worth of TVL. And you can see the breakdown here of what these are validated by. So I'll do it without layer 2s for now. So the Polygon POS chain, for example, this is the thing with the biggest TVL in it going from Ethereum to the Polygon POS chain. So this is the bridge going there. So market share 33%, validated by the destination chain. So the you can see transfers need to be confirmed by 2/3 of the Polygon POS validator stake, and it's a token bridge. And then you have other things like this multi-chain product here, validated by a third party, 2/3 of an MPC, multi-party computation there, basically a multi-sig. And then there's other ones here that you can scroll through. Some of them don't have any info, some of them optimistically are done, and then you can do include canonical bridges to L2s. Well, these are validated by Ethereum, right? And they're the types on these things are optimistic rollups or ZK rollups, but they're all validated by Ethereum because you're not bridging to another chain with its own validator set, right? The whole point of a layer 2 is it doesn't have its own consensus. It outsources that to Ethereum layer 1. It outsources the validation to Ethereum layer 1, and that's why it says validated here by Ethereum. And that's going to be the most secure bridge that you will have pretty much ever, I think, going from Ethereum to anywhere else, because I've explained how bridges work before, how you get this IOU, and then it's really dependent on the other chain. If you go to the I don't know, if you go to, let's pick Avalanche out of this. If you go to Avalanche from Ethereum, while your assets on Avalanche are only IOUs, your assets are still on the Ethereum layer 1 chain. So if you bridged ETH to Avalanche, well, that ETH just exists on Ethereum layer 1, but you've got an IOU on Avalanche. Now, if something happened to that ETH on Avalanche, you wouldn't be able to unlock that on Ethereum layer 1, even though it exists on layer 1. It's because you can't unlock it because you don't have the IOU, unless you went and bought more of it. Say you lost it, well, you'd have to rebuy that IOU on the Avalanche chain and then bridge back. And if the bridge itself got hacked, so for example, if the Avalanche bridge on Ethereum, if all of the tokens in there got drained, while all of their corresponding IOUs on the Avalanche chain would become worthless because there's now nothing backing them. It's basically a collateral, right? For example, but cool to see that this is finally out there, and there's a risk analysis as well. That's what. There's a risk analysis tab here as well, and obviously that's what L2BT is known for. That has a bit more information about this. What's the upgradability and what's the destination token type. So if we include the L2s here, you can see that these things are still upgradable, which means that they're still centralized. They're still the code's still able to be changed, and you can kind of see their destination token is native and canonical. So native to the chain, and canonical as in across from Ethereum to the layer 2s there. But you can go check this out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But really, really cool to see that this is finally out there. And you can see the value here, how much it's actually fallen because of the fact that the prices of crypto have fallen so much. So at its peak, not including L2s, Bridges held $60 billion in US dollars here. Currently, they hold $8.4 billion. And that's obviously because the market has just gotten destroyed, right, in the last 10 months. If we include L2s, it doesn't look any better. You got the values a bit higher, but it's the same result at the end of the day. But the bridges, they still hold a lot of value in them. And it's quite scary how much they held up here. But I think part of this may have had to do with Terra as well. I'm not sure how they're calculating this because obviously the Terra ecosystem just deleted itself out of existence. But by the looks of things, Terra deleted itself, around here? But this is when the market was crashing anyway. So I don't know if that's included in this. But yeah, I don't know if that even matters. We can just see the general trend is obviously down. But yeah, I'll link this in the YouTube description and you can go check it out for yourself. All right, so it's a bit of on-chain trolling happening today. So you guys know how Flashbots' Relay is censoring Tornado Cash addresses that have been sanctioned by OFAC. Well, this MEV refund account on Twitter put out this tweet today saying, "What's this? A Flashbots block donating 0.03 ETH to Tornado Cash. Welp, seal's broken. Might as well stop censoring now." So the Tornado Cash donate address is actually on the OFAC list. People were saying, "Oh, well, the donate address is fine. It's not the one on the OFAC list." No. It's on the list. You're not allowed to interact with that address. Well, this seems to have slipped through the cracks here. And as MEV Refund says here, the seal's been broken. The Flashbots Relay has now included a transaction that interacted with a sanctioned address. Where does it stop from here, right? Where is the line? Could they argue if... they're not going to get questions about this, but if they were... Could they argue and say, oh, it was a mistake, we didn't mean to do that, right? I mean, like, how many times can they say that and justify it like that? And that's why, again, like, this sort of stuff is nonsensical. Could you, like, you could imagine trying to cover every address that gets sanctioned, trying to not interact with them, and trying to account for every edge case and everything. It doesn't work, right? So I thought this was pretty funny, on-chain trolling going on here, because I mean, I think the ecosystem is rightfully pissed at this censorship here, and I think that I mean, I don't think it's gotten any better either. Sadly, like, if I go to mevwatch.info, let me get this up here for you guys. It's actually getting worse because the Flashbots relay just has so much network effect. You can see OFAC compliant. I mean, almost 50% now is OFAC compliant, including all blocks. And then if you go here, you can see that Flashbots, its market share has come down. It's at 76%, but the problem is that Flashbots isn't the only one censoring. You also have Eden Network, Block Native, and Blocks Routes Regulated one doing it as well. So it's good that Flashbots' market share has come down, but it sucks because it just, like, there's the other ones that have just taken market share there. So this is just really shitty. I mean, I've talked about this a lot. I'm not going to rehash it here, but I just thought it was funny how there was a bit of on-chain trolling going on today. All right, so Owocki from Gitcoin, well, maybe formerly of Gitcoin, he's kind of exited Gitcoin DAO, has announced his new venture, which is called Supermodular here. So supermodular.xyz, or XYZ is the Twitter account. They are a venture studio that builds regenerative Web3 projects, often on top of and adjacent to Gitcoin's protocols, such as quadratic funding, grants, and Passport. You can go to supermodular.xyz to check out the website. And Owocki expands here, saying, when we were called Gitcoin Holdings, we were focused on building and funding digital public goods. Our purpose as Supermodular is to build a more regenerative digital frontier. This is a superset of digital public goods. So it seems Kevin's his real name, is taking the, I guess, work that he's done with Gitcoin over the years. I mean, he created Gitcoin and all the work that is done around that and all the public goods funding, and wrapping it all up in this new venture studio that wants to take this to the next level. And their website's quite basic here. You can go check it out. A bunch of links and stuff. I'll link that in the YouTube description. But I think this is really cool. I mean, if there's anyone who cares about public goods in Ethereum, it's Kevin. I mean, he is the godfather of public goods, so to speak, at least within the Ethereum ecosystem. And he's been pushing it for a long time now. Obviously, as Gitcoin became a DAO and they issued a token, he wasn't going to be, you know, the, I guess, CEO of Gitcoin anymore, right? And now he's basically just another ecosystem contributor to Gitcoin, and he's trying to contribute in as many ways as he can. And this is one of those ways with this venture studio. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of this, how they go about doing public goods funding and all this sort of stuff. I mean, you guys know I'm a public goods maximalist as well, so I'm definitely keeping a close eye on this new project. All right, so Polygon's big announcement was that their zkEVM testnet, public testnet, is now live. And it's not just live in it just being there and nothing on it. There's actually apps already on there. So Aave and Uniswap, as well as Lens Protocol and a gaming studio, will be among the first to join the testnet and help Polygon take the zkEVM to the mainnet. So, and you can see the thread here about, you know, exactly what's going on under the hood and things like that. As a video, blog post. I mean, I'll link them all in the YouTube description for you to check out, but guys, like, the zkEVM wars, they're heating up, really, like, I mean, it's crazy. You expect these announcements to come out at DevCon, considering it's the biggest Ethereum conference of the year, and there's a lot of excitement, but at the zkEVM stuff, just the journey that we've come we've been on and we've come from and where we've come from in the last 2 years has been incredible to me. And not even just 2 years, like even a year ago, people thought that zkEVMs were years and years and years away. And then we've proved them all wrong. Like, this is a public testnet zkEVM. This is not private mainnet alpha beta whatever, right? This is a zkEVM on public testnet. And Polygon are not the only ones doing this. zkSync has their zkEVM mainnet going live soon. Scroll is out there. Starkware's working on their, not zkEVM, but like their zk stuff with Starknet. That's been live for a while. We had Taiko announce themselves the other day, right, doing a zkEVM. I'm missing teams right now, so apologies to any teams that I'm missing. I know There's more working on them, but yeah, I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's crazy that we've gotten this far as fast as we have, and the fact that it's a bear market as well, and the building has just not stopped at all. You know, I actually saw a thread the other day. I haven't got it here now about Polygon, showing that even on the POS chain, their growth has still been going up, right? And I actually do have full confidence that one day that POS chain is going to be migrated to a zkEVM and then become a full layer 2 on Ethereum with an already bustling ecosystem. I mean, that's just amazing. Right? And not only, obviously, Polygon's ecosystem is growing, Arbitrum and Optimism have been growing amazingly. I mean, I've been looking at their metrics lately and being like, wow, as a percentage of Ethereum Layer 1 transactions, they're growing like quite nicely in a bear market. Like, I want to keep reminding you guys, we're in a pretty deep bear market right now, but things are still growing. And this is how I felt in 2019, actually, when it was a very deep bear market, obviously, but things were growing. And they weren't growing. They actually weren't growing as fast as they are today, but things were growing. Things were being deployed. DeFi was definitely, you know, having its moment in 2019 and gearing itself up for that 2020 DeFi summer that we had. But I'm getting the same feelings now with all this layer 2 stuff going on. I mean, I've been talking about it since basically day one of the refuel and even before that. And the fact that we're at this point now where I can basically say, hey, we have like tens of layer 2s live or going live. There's more coming online all the time, and the hype behind them is just extreme, and they're actually delivering. It's not just hype and marketing, it's actually being delivered now. That's what excites me most about this stuff. But yeah, the public testnet being live obviously means that mainnet isn't too far out. They originally set the target, I think, at the end of this year or early next year, and I mean, we're mid-October, guys. Like, it's not very far away now, which is crazy to me because I was thinking about this the other day. We're already in mid-October. Scary that we're already at 2023. But I think that's what happens especially in bear markets. I notice time actually goes quicker in bear markets than it does in bull markets, because bull markets tend to, for me anyway, and I don't want to go off too much of a tangent here, but for me, with a bull market, because so much is going on all the time, I feel like there's a lot of time that passes mentally, but like in reality, it's actually been a very slow period of time. So, for example, there was a 2-week period of DeFi summer that I remember where things were going absolutely crazy, like the craziest they had been, and I felt like I had experienced a year's worth of activity in 2 weeks, right? Whereas in a bear market, it's definitely very different. The real time tends to go very quickly, but the mental time seems to go a bit slower because everything's much slower in a bear market, obviously. So I like that. I do like that. They both have their own positives and negatives, bull and bear markets. But hey, Ethereum's built in any market condition, which is what I've always loved about Ethereum. All right, so just a reminder here that voting is live on the proposal to deploy Uniswap v3 on zkSync. So you can vote before you leave for DevCon. If you haven't left yet, this was posted on October 9th, so maybe you've already left. I mean, you probably should have, because I think opening ceremony is today. But you can go check this out at this vote here. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. If you're a Uni token holder, you can vote on this. I think it's a no-brainer to deploy Uniswap v3 to zkSync. Uniswap v3 should be on all these L2s, and zkSync obviously going live with a zkEVM very, very shortly, or zkSync 2.0 very shortly. I can't think of a better addition than Uniswap v3. And in other zkSync news as well, they shared another exciting milestone that they have on the horizon, which is their layer 3. Now, okay, I've talked about layer 3 before and how this terminology is kind of like won me over at this point because people are just using it. And I think that people have an aversion to using layer 3, layer 4, layer 5 because it gets memed. But I think it makes sense. So this layer 3 is called Pathfinder, and it will be released to the public testnet in Q1 of 2023. So basically how this works is that this is zkSync's tweet. It reads, Layer 2 sets the stage. Our Layer 2 will provide the foundation necessary for Ethereum to scale without compromising its security or decentralization. Ultimately, we envision mass adoption happening in Layer 3 and beyond due to unlimited scalability. zkSync's Layer 3 is the next frontier. As we define Layer 3, we envision a trustless, customizable blockchain ecosystem powered by zkEVM called hyperchains. A star field of 10x moments will result from Layer 3's limitless scaling and customization. zkSync's Layer 3 solution allows developers to choose from 3 data availability options, all using the same infrastructure for their project. The choice between price, performance, and security is up to the developer. So brings us to what is Pathfinder. Pathfinder will be launched in Q1. It will be the first L3 prototype demonstrating a zk rollup as a fractal hyperchain in Layer 3. Okay. We love our buzzwords in crypto, but just let me read that again. The Pathfinder will be the first L3 prototype demonstrating a ZK rollup as a fractal hyperchain in layer 3. That's a lot of buzzwords there. This tool will enable us to aggressively experiment in the upcoming months. So very cool stuff here. I mean, there is a blog post with more details that you can check out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But Starkway has been talking about layer 3 as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure all the layer 2s are going to be doing layer 3 stuff eventually, just because they can drop costs down, especially when it comes to data, which is the bulk of the costs of these things, and we can have more experimentation. So they're showing here basically what they're going to have live. They're going to have ZK Rollup, ZK Porter, and a Validium mode, and these are the modes that people can choose from. There's a nice little graphic here showing how this all works. You know, Ethereum obviously is layer 1, layer 2, and then you've got layer 3, which is basically everything else on top there. So I think this is pretty cool because it basically, like, without getting too technical here, it's expanding the tree. Like, you can actually see in this picture, it's like a tree, and I just made that connection just then as I was saying that. The layer 1 obviously is like the roots, so to speak. Layer 2 is the stump, the trunk, whatever. And then layer 3 is like all the branches branching off, and then the leaves and everything branching off of that. Maybe we even have a layer 4 with like leaves and stuff branching off. So that's how this stuff is going to look. And it all inherits from the same base, obviously. Like, the roots of the tree obviously is responsible for the tree being able to just stand up and stay put, right? So, and the stronger the roots are, the more secure the tree is, stronger Ethereum is, the more secure these layer 2s and layer 3s are, and all that. But these layer 3s can inherently be isolated, and something can happen to them, and it won't affect the layer 1 or the layer 2, so to speak. So, for example, a branch could snap off, just as an example here, and go off completely, but it's not going to affect the rest of the tree, right? There may be some contagion. The branch might hit another branch, maybe a token might contagion with another token, but you get the general gist of the analogy there. But yeah, you can go read the blog post for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so Liam from the Scroll team here put out a thread about Scroll announcing the upgraded version of their zkEVM testnet. So this is a huge milestone for both the Scroll team and the early community, and Liam in this thread breaks down what the upgrade means for both developers and users. So you can go check out this thread. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But just another zkEVM announcement here, which is very, very cool. Obviously, Scroll has been at the forefront for quite a while now, along with the others that I've mentioned. But yeah, I can't wait to see Scroll's zkEVM live on mainnet as well. Like, it really is the battle of the zkEVMs coming up. And the funny thing is, I've said before that Optimism and Arbitrum can turn their optimistic rollups into zero-knowledge rollups. Maybe not like immediately and maybe not soon, but they can. And they already have the ecosystems to boot as well. So there is a lot of stiff competition going on, that's for sure. All right, so I talked about Taiko yesterday on the Refuel, and today they have a thread and a blog post explaining more about what they are. So I said that Taiko is a Type 1 ZK rollup, or zkEVM. Now, what this basically means, I mean, the TLDR here of what a Type 1 is, or Type 1 zkEVM is basically means that it's Ethereum equivalent. So exactly like Ethereum. It's basically like what Optimism is doing with their optimistic Ethereum network and trying to be, just the exact same thing as Ethereum. That's what a Type 1 zkEVM does. So it inherits all the positives and negatives of that. And I believe Taiko is the first Type 1 zkEVM that is being developed right now, which is good because I like seeing this experimentation. We don't want them all to be the same. We don't want them all to be Type 2 or Type 3. We want them to be Type 1, across like all of the types, which is very cool. But yeah, you can read this thread and this blog post to get an idea about more of Taiko here. But I actually, over the last 24 hours, looked a bit deeper into this. There seems to be a lot of loopring people involved in Taiko. I don't know the strict connections between the things, but the Dan person I talked about yesterday, I believe, used to work at Loopring, and obviously Matt Feinstein I talked about as well. And you can see here, Byron at Loopring has also replied saying, welcome new Taiko Nauts. So yeah, there seems to be stuff going on between Loopring and Taiko here, which is cool to see because Loopring's been around for a while now as a ZK rollup. They're one of the first, if not the first ZK rollups to go live on Ethereum mainnet. So yeah, cool to see there being a bit of synergies between those two teams there. All right, last up on the rollup train, I think this is the last thing on the rollup train. Vitalik posted his slides from his presentation on multi-provers in rollups today. So For those of you who don't know, the way rollups work is that they have this thing called a prover, and right now they're single proving, and it's still quite expensive and quite complicated to do a single prover. But if you want to make it faster and you want to do it kind of in parallel, you would need like a multi-prover architecture, for example, to in essentially speed up these rollups. And Polygon replied here saying, given how complex building a single prover has proven to be, how long it is taking, multi-prover doesn't seem like a feasible option. I was told it's 4 times as hard. Definitely agree with the governance option. And he posted some thoughts on the Optimism forum. And then Vitalik says, use the PSE zkEVM as the second prover, which is just alien speak. And then Polygon goes on, and just like, it's funny. Like, they just kind of went in this thread, and there's a bunch of stuff going on here, a bunch of technical stuff that you can read. I'll link this in the YouTube description. But it seems there's a bit of disagreement here. So Vitalik saying one thing, Polygon saying another. Tim weighed in here as well, and a few other people. So yeah, cool to see there's a bit of debate going on there. But you can check out these slides for yourself. Like, I think these are the slides from his maybe keynote talk, or one of the talks that he did. Anyway, not the keynote, but one of the main talks that he did. But yeah, I'll link this in the YouTube description for you to check out. But this is something to learn about proving when it comes to rollups. All right, just a couple of things I came across. So Lattice here has announced their on-chain game engine, their autonomous voxel world, and a fully on-chain RTS. So after a long silence, Lattice is excited to finally show the world what they've been up to at DevCon Bogota this week. Read on to see what to expect. So it's not announced just yet. They're basically hyping up their talks. So they have something called MUD, which is an engine for on-chain games. And they're going to be joined by Kelvin from Optimism to talk about why we need game engines, what MUD is, and what rollups for autonomous worlds will look like. Next up is AW Arcade, which is a hacker basement, and it will be showcasing 2 of their largest projects built with MUD, a fully on-chain 3D voxel world, and Sky Strife, which is a real-time strategy game. So these things are built on rollups, guys, like just to give some context here. And then thirdly, using this MUD, this architecture here. And then third is they're going to be joined by Optimism's Kevin and Dark Forest's Gubsheep here for a panel on the technical frontiers of AWs and autonomous worlds. AW stands for autonomous worlds and on-chain games, followed by a technical intro to MUD. Gaming is a slept-on thing when it comes to layer 2s. I think there's a lot of hype with general crypto gaming NFT stuff, right? I'm seeing a lot of hype around that. But when it comes to games on layer 2s, especially rollups, or ZK rollups, I should say, it's definitely something that people aren't paying enough attention to. There's a lot of stuff happening on Starkware, on Starknet. I've talked about that before. But there's also a lot of other stuff happening on Arbitrum, Optimism, ZK rollups in general, zkEVMs in general, and beyond. Like, this thing, as I've said before, I mentioned yesterday, ZK stuff is going to change this industry. Well, this is one way it's going to change it with these fully on-chain games. I mean, one of the most popular games to date has been Dark Forest, and they were on just a side chain where they were still limited. I believe they were on... what was it originally? It was XDAI chain, I think. And then that got changed into like Gnosis chain or something, I believe. And then they were on another side chain. So they're going to be able to build a Dark Forest-like thing on a roll-up and get like massively more scale. And not just scale, they'll be able to do things they weren't ever able to do on a sidechain, or especially not Ethereum layer 1. So this is something to pay attention to, guys. Like, for both, I guess, like potential investment opportunities if you're looking for that sort of thing, but also just from a pure in it for the tech perspective, so to speak. I think this stuff is really, really cool. I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can check it out, and you can possibly check out the talks as well. All the dates are here. All right, last up, Ben Lakoff here on Twitter announced that they were ETHGlobal finalists, and what they built was something called dZKreet. Hopefully I said that right, or dZKreet, which is a ZK privacy layer for NFTs using Aztec. So this is really cool. You guys know that privacy and scaling are the 2 things that I'm most passionate about and most excited about in crypto. Well, Aztec does both, and now people are building using Aztec's technology, which is very cool. Like, a ZK privacy layer for NFTs is awesome. So you can go check this out at the ETHGlobal website, and I'm sure you can play around with it and everything as well if you would like to. And there's a live demo and source code. But I've talked about ZK NFTs before. There's those ZK badges from Sysmo, and there's a bunch of other things that I've spoken about in the past. That's another thing to pay attention to in addition to the gaming stuff. But it's all coming. It's all exciting. But on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.